Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As usual, wherever you're listening or watching this, welcome along. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how to enhance your ceremony with symbolic actions. If you've ever listened to any of my videos before or you've read any of my blog posts, you will know that I am a bit of a fan of a symbolic action. If you haven't seen them before or you've not heard me talk about them before, a symbolic action is essentially an action that you do within your ceremony that can really add meaning and significance and just adds that kind of extra depth to your ceremony. And they can be really, really great things to help enrich your ceremony. So the most sort of famous, if you like, or well-known example of a symbolic action is the exchanging of rings in a wedding ceremony. So in a wedding ceremony, it's very traditional, very common for the two parties, bride and groom, groom and groom, bride and bride, to exchange rings if they want to. But you don't have to do that. It's entirely optional. It doesn't form part of a legal marriage ceremony in the UK at least. So you know, that's your choice. But that is a classic example of a symbolic action because the exchanging of rings does have a meaning behind it. There's a meaning and a symbolism behind why we choose to exchange rings. So that is a really good example of a symbolic action. But of course there are excuse me, lots and lots of different things you can do within a ceremony that are symbolic actions that really lend meaning and enrich your ceremony. So what a symbolic action can do for your ceremony, it's not just for weddings. You know, I've given that really a famous example of wedding rings, exchanging rings, because that's what most people will recognise as something that happens in a ceremony. But it's not just for weddings. There's lots of other things you can do in a couple or wedding ceremony. But you can apply symbolic actions to other ceremonies, so naming ceremonies, a celebration of life, for example, where you're celebrating the life of somebody who has passed away. Excuse me. So within a celebration of life, for example, you may choose to do something like a tree or a planting. You know, you might choose to plant a tree or a shrub or something in the memory of the person who passed away. You could also do that equally in a naming ceremony, actually, to celebrate the life of a new life of a baby, and that tree is going to grow and flourish with that baby and be part of them. So there's lots of different ways you can incorporate that in it, lots of different actions you can incorporate in lots of different types of ceremonies. So don't for a second think, oh, you know, when she's talking about symbolic actions, really that's only for weddings, it's not for what I'm doing. You can absolutely apply it to any ceremony. And I think, you know, that when I talk about these actions enriching ceremonies, you know, it's really important in a ceremony to actually talk about what you're doing as well. So there's no point in planting a tree and everyone thinking, oh, okay, well, that was nice, but what's that about exactly? You know, there is symbolism and meaning behind everything that we do. And it's important to talk about that. And with trees or shrubs, for example, you know, different trees have different meanings. You know, trees are sort of shrouded in, you know, history and mysticism, and there's legends, and there's all kinds of things and stories to be told around trees and different types of trees and shrubs having different meanings in life. So they always lend themselves really well to a ceremony and relating that to somebody's life. So that's a really nice thing you can do in couple ceremonies, not just weddings, but it could be a renewal of vows or a commitment ceremony. You can do things with candles. You can have sand ceremonies, water ceremonies. For a wedding in particular, you can do the ancient tradition of jumping over the broomstick if you want to be really quirky. And that's great because actually, you know, we've all been to weddings in the past that have been, you know, as nice and as beautiful as they are, and absolutely they're special because, you know, the people who are getting married are special to you. That's why you're there. But wouldn't it be amazing to sort of leave that wedding and you know, a few years down the line go, oh, do you remember so and so's wedding? Oh yeah, they did that thing with the jumping over the broomstick. It was really fun and it was really great, and you know, that's something that people will really remember. So if you're planning your ceremony, you might like to think about something that's actually going to make people really remember fondly your wedding day, or your ceremony. And actions, symbolic actions, don't have to just be about you as a couple or the baby being named. You know, it can involve your guests as well. So, for example, another symbolic action might be hand fasting, or also called the joining of hands. It's an ancient pagan tradition, and it's where the phrase tying the knot originally came from. And if you ever heard me speak at a wedding fair, you'll know that I like that one as well. But that action of tying your hands together with cord or ribbon, obviously that in itself has a meaning, but it doesn't have to be just about you two. It can be done with just the two of you and your celebrant, wrapping those cords around you and saying some beautiful words around that. But it could be that you ask your guests to be involved and they all have a cord or a ribbon each, and they bring that to you so that they're involved in wrapping and binding your hands together. That can be a really beautiful thing, particularly if you've got significant, special people in your life that you really want to involve and be part of that ceremony with you, not just you know, standing by and observing. So there's different ways you can incorporate these actions. There's different actions you can do. They all have different meanings. You know, I love a symbolic action, as I said at the beginning, and if you have got a particular idea in mind that you're thinking, actually there's this thing in our lives that we want to be able to symbolise and to really ground into our ceremony, then we can look at a symbolic action to meet that. There's so many of them, and I haven't got time to possibly go through them all now, because we'd be here probably all day, me talking about them and explaining them. But part of my process when I work with my couples and my families is to talk to them about what kind of things they might want to include in their ceremony, what symbolic actions we could think about. Like I said, whether that's sand, water, candles, ribbons, trees, and a whole host of other things. The choice can be sometimes overwhelming, and that's why you need a good celebrant like me to guide you through it, because there are so many things that you can do, and they're all amazing things. They're all really great things that you should consider. I wouldn't recommend anyone just kind of go with the bog standard ceremony. I've done that, and do you know what? You know, a couple of weeks ago I did a live just about that, actually, how I would change my wedding ceremony if I was doing it again. And that's because we went with the standard thing, because that's all we thought the options were. It just didn't occur to us that there was any other alternative, but there is. The possibilities are endless, and if you've got a good celebrant to guide you through that and help you create the ceremony of your dreams, whether it is a wedding, a naming ceremony, a celebration of life, or anything in between that, you know, you can have a ceremony about anything that's important to you in life, and we can find something to lend and enrich that experience, and to lend itself to that meaning. Oh, it's exciting. So that's really very quickly, in a nutshell, just a recap on what symbolic actions are and how they can enhance your ceremony that you're planning. So if you want to know more about symbolic actions, and like I said at the beginning, if you haven't seen my blog or the videos that I've done, head over to the Facebook page. All my videos are on there. The blog is on the website, theauthenticCelebrant.co.uk. Just go to the blog page, you'll see them all there. You can also sign up to receive a monthly newsletter with tips, advice, all kinds of things about ceremonies if you're planning something. And of course you can visit the website, like I just said, Authentic Celebrant, theauthenticCelebrant.co.uk. So if you've got any questions at all, as ever with these videos, just leave a comment or email me, message me. All my contact details are on the social media pages and on the website. Just get in touch. I would love to talk to you about your ceremony, whatever it is that you're thinking about and you're planning. So I'll see you next time. See you later.